Hey everybody, and welcome to the intersection of sports and marketing. I'm Brian Cristiano. I'm here at Outdoor Retailer, and this is episode 31 of OUTOFSCOPE. I talked to Vanessa Christie, marketing manager at Timbuk2, a custom backpack company based in San Francisco that's been around since 1989. They don't do traditional marketing, and she tells me why. All you marketers out there need to listen to this.
Sports marketing expert Brian Cristiano.
Brian Cristiano.
Brian Cristiano.
Marketers and advertisers and brands always have to keep in mind, you have to play to the state of your audience. Endurance sports athletes are absolutely fanatics.
Having a Facebook page doesn't get you any business, but doing it right can be quite effective.
Vanessa Christie, Timbuk2,
Yes.
Marketing manager. I came in, I want to talk to you on the show because you have a really interesting backstory. You have a really interesting way in which you've grown the company and the brand that you're in. Tell me a little bit about the story.
Sure. So Timbuk2 was started 26 years ago, 1989, in a garage in San Francisco by a bike messenger, Rob Honeycutt, who at the time in San Francisco, the bike messenger scene was very exclusive. And there's one guy on the scene making messenger bags, but only if you could prove that you were actually a messenger. If you weren't, no bag. Wow. So Rob said, messenger bags for all, and started filling orders for his friends, and it just grew from there.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you have stayed, the brand has stayed in San Francisco ever since.
Yes.
And you're producing handmade bags in San Francisco.
Yes.
What is that like in 2015? Because that's very different than in 1989.
Correct. So we have actually stayed not only in San Francisco itself, but in the same neighborhood that it started.
Wow.
We've had a couple of different factories over the course of the 26 years that have literally been within 2 or 3 blocks of each other.
Wow.
And where we're at now, I mean, we do get that question a lot, like, we're actually the second largest manufacturer in San Francisco now, behind Anchor Brewing. But I mean, their beer and wine, we can't beat that.
Right.
But yeah, it's different. It's a challenge. People are like, well, why wouldn't you make it overseas? You can do it
Right.
for less. It could be faster, so on and so forth. But I mean, it's a part of our heritage. This is where we came from, and this is what we continue to stand for. And in some ways, it's almost like this icon of like the underdog of, you know, doing what said can't be done.
Right.
But it can. And so by continuing to do so helps us to continue that message, and in some ways, we hope of inspiring other people to do what said can't be done.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
and the thing is, it's not even like you're mass producing bags in San Francisco. You're hand making these bags, or some
Correct.
of these bags you're hand making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's 9 different styles right now that you can customize. And for example,
Right.
this is a prospect pack, and you can literally customize not only, like every single thing on here can be customized. Like the bottom,
Right.
this can be different from this, from this, from this, from this. You can add side pockets. You can add binding, it's reflective. There's wax canvas. We have a lot of fabrics that we design ourselves. And then it's made in San Francisco and will ship within, if you order it online or in one of our stores, it ships in 3 to 5 businesses.
Oh, wow.
And then
And it's handmade.
It's handmade.
Wow.
Like it's hand cut. It's handmade.
So Timbuk2 has been growing ever since 1989, right? You guys you're still on an upward trajectory.
We're
You're
still going.
expanding. Tell me how you do that in a world where most brands, so we're here at Outdoor Retailer, right? You know, we're stopping by. You guys even have the person who's been with you, what, 18 years?
18 years.
18 years, and
Yep.
she's hand making the bags here just to show how like custom and everything you can do.
Exactly. So Hui, who's sewing the bags,
Right.
has worked for Timbuk2 for 18 years. She worked for Rob Honeycutt. She was like one of the first people that he hired
Wow.
to help him with production because he literally couldn't keep up with demand.
Wow.
But I mean, yeah, things have changed, but ultimately it comes back to our heritage and where we came from.
In this day and age, right? So 2015, we're going to 2016. There's so many companies that outsource everything to another country. They try to do everything absolutely as cheap as possible, biggest margins, mass produce it. And here you are in San Francisco, a very expensive city to live in the United States, a very expensive city to do business in the United States.
Yeah.
You're hand making bags. You're doing it the hard way, but you're still growing,
Yeah.
and you're doing it the same way that it was done 26 years ago.
Yes.
How is it that you're able to continue to grow the company when most brands would look at that and say, that's not a sustainable business model, that's crazy? How are you
Totally.
how are you continuing to grow?
So that's a very good question.
Yeah.
So we started the whole customizing. So the first, like, I won't even call it 1.0
Right.
version of Customizer was literally sheets of paper that people filled out in bike shops, in stores,
Wow.
in like the late 90s.
Wow.
When we actually had distribution. We launched the first online customizer, like a product customizer. Being in San Francisco, being so close to new technology,
Right.
we were able to be the first ones to market to have that. But so pretty much from like 2001 up until what are we now? 2015, 2014.
Right.
We were mainly an online business.
Right.
Was the only way that you could customize a bag would be on Timbuk2.com.
Wow.
And so part of our way of growing that pie, that whole pie, is so last year we underwent a large amount of retail expansion, and then this year another 2 stores. But it's really, so one part is growing our distribution.
Right.
So not only focusing on e-com, but also on in-store experiences.
Right.
And then what we're also excited to do, and it's really, this part's in like a beta stage right now, but rolling out a made in SF, like curated collection for our wholesale partners.
Oh, wow.
So we just launched it with Paragon Sports in New York City.
Okay, yeah, very
just like
familiar.
a super small capsule collection.
Yeah.
But then to be able to not only have it as a custom product that people can design one-offs,
Right.
but also that a store like Paragon, EMS, even REI
Right.
could design an REI collection
Right.
made in San Francisco, available across the country.
Right.
So it's not just around the one-off custom,
Right.
but around the whole capability of the fact that we have a factory in San Francisco.
So you're based on heritage, you're based on quality, you're based on the products, you're based on the customization, you're based on now you're expanding both through retail as well as e-commerce. You said to me before we started shooting that
Yeah.
you're not doing traditional marketing, you're not
No.
doing print, you're not doing TV, you're any out of home, or any of that kind of stuff is so minimal or it's based on trade. What are you doing from a marketing perspective? So,
Sure.
like, how is that working? What are you doing?
So I would say like 95% of what we do is digital marketing.
Right.
Really focusing on social media. I mean, Facebook is still a large part of where our spend is.
Right.
We still do SEO advertising for e-commerce. And then we're sort of on the future of where we started and are going to continue to go is with influencers.
Right.
That have a strong digital presence as well as a strong in-market presence that just organically through their networks will be able to like amplify that word of mouth, which really at the end of the day, we still see and hear word of mouth is the main way that people
Wow.
hear about our brand.
Wow. So that's why it's important for you to get it in customers' hands, let them experience it, talk about the quality themselves, and tell their friends. Influencers is an interesting thing. I actually did an episode about this because there's so many brands that are like, oh, find out who has the most, YouTube views or whatever, Instagram, whatever, and pay them some money and do.
Yeah.
But I know that you guys are doing it in a much different way, a much more cohesive approach. Tell me a little bit about how you're incorporating influencers into your marketing on a way that feels organic, that's natural, that doesn't feel like this awkward marketing.
Like paid or forced.
Yeah. How are you doing that?
So, I mean, it really comes down to these three, for us, we have 3 pillars of the brand.
Yeah.
The idea of city, the idea of bike, and technology, tech. And so when we're taking a look at sort of the first view of influencers, whether it be online or like in person or in
Right.
the field, we always come back to those 3 pillars. Like, does this make sense for us? Does this person and their values line up with ours? Because the absolute last thing that we would ever want to do is come across as being
disingenuous,
inauthentic, because that's not who we are. I
Right.
mean, we're pretty irreverent. Like the staff are pretty irreverent, and most of our copy and creative, we hope, comes across as irreverent in its own way,
Yeah.
because we don't want to take it too seriously.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so you're finding people that feel the same way, genuinely like your products, and then you're aligning them. Is that
Correct.
the deal? They have
So-
to like your stuff, right?
They, to be honest with you, because we are a small but growing brand,
Yeah.
the majority of times people actually haven't heard of us yet.
Yeah, okay.
I would say it's probably about a 50-50
So
split.
you're introducing some people that are will become influencers. You're also introducing some of them to the brand.
Absolutely.
And how has that response been?
Awesome.
Yeah.
We've partnered so far predominantly, and it's still in the beginning phases. We
Right.
have a very lean marketing team, we're in the beginning phases of a larger influencer program. But where we have seen the most traction has actually been on Instagram, where we've reached out to people who seem to have a good brand fit and just kind of like kicking it old school.
Yeah.
And each of the situations with the influencers has been a little bit different. But as a result of that actual relationship building, the final product it felt really natural and organic and not forced.
That's important.
So the whole quality over quantity.
Right.
And you talked
And
about,
that goes back to your brand.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Because I mean, everything we create does have a lifetime warranty. So every fabric, every stitch, like it has to live up to some serious wear and tear. Otherwise, we won't make it.
Right. So there's a very clear connection between your marketing and your core, what started the company. It
Yeah.
seems to be very much in line. Do you think that that's something that's very important for brands across the board, small, big, everybody in between, that stay like, this is what we believe in and our marketing reflects that? Is that important?
I mean, I would
There's
say
companies that
so.
don't do it, but do you feel that that's an important thing?
I would say so, yes, because I feel like now more than ever, people can sniff out inauthenticity
Yeah.
like that.
Absolutely.
Like as soon as it becomes too commercial feeling or like too much of a stretch, people's like red flags, red alarms, whatever that's red goes off, and
Right.
and disengage,
Yeah.
or unlike, and then sort of pull out of that
Right.
ecosphere and no longer participate, and probably have pulled your product out of their decision set.
Right, and that's it. It's hard, and it's hard to re-win a new customer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Get that
So
attention back. So you said that Instagram's working very well for you. Instagram a few days ago finally opened up their API to start finally doing marketing to not, brands that aren't, massive companies. Is that something you're going to potentially look at, being that it's already working for you just from an organic standpoint?
I would love to be able to comment further on that, but I have been in the world of OR
Yeah.
for the past 3 days,
Yeah.
and I didn't even know that.
Well, there you go.
So I can't
You
comment.
can know, so we're soon to be able
No
to start
comment.
marketing. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, very interesting. I'll have to follow up with you on that.
Yes.
All right. Cool. One last thing.
Yeah.
What would you say if you had to give one or two
Oh, gosh.
tips of just like, what is it from a brand that's like, a small mid-sized brand
Yeah.
that's, what do you think is like one or two core things that a brand can do from a marketing perspective or from a brand perspective or company perspective that really connects with consumers without having to do traditional marketing?
So there's two things that I think of. The first one, and this can apply to, so the first one is partnerships. Partnerships, whether it's complementary brands like other products, or whether it's media or a publication.
Yeah.
I truly believe that partnerships is the next level of marketing, because there's so much noise and there's so many messages, so many visuals that people are forced to like really scale down who they listen to, what brands
Right.
they listen to.
Right.
And so you don't have as much opportunity to like be introduced to new customers unless you're like basically brought in, introduced by a partner.
Right.
And likewise, and I mean, someone and I don't even remember where I referenced this or where I heard it first, but someone, it was an NPR article, or I think, I'm really
That's all right.
messing this one up.
Yeah, that's all right.
But it was this woman who was asked, who was a successful entrepreneur in Silicon Valley.
Yep.
And she was asked, you know, there's different hubs of technology all over the world that are doing kind of what Silicon Valley is. Like, but why is it that people keep coming back to Silicon Valley? Like, what is it about there? And her response is that it's viewed as the pie there is not finite. So if we both have startups, and you get funding, it doesn't mean that I don't get funding.
Right.
So the pie gets bigger,
Right.
gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think too many times we think about the finite pie,
Right.
and we don't think about, like, if we were to collaborate as two brands, that pie gets bigger, and it's not about taking market share from here and there, just about expanding the pie.
Right.
So that's how I feel about partnerships, and I think it's the next wave of marketing and connecting with customers. And then the second one is events.
Okay.
Really memorable events, again, with partners that
Right.
make sense, authentic, be yourself, and connecting that face-to-face relationship, building them on all different levels is what makes you and your brand memorable.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Those are two great tips.
Those are my tips.
I love it. Vanessa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I feel like we need more of a high five.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Talking. Why, Kyle? Yes, of course. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Cool.